Damien Sterling had it all figured out. At 25, he was what his friends generously called a serial romantic and what everyone else accurately called a heartbreaker. With his perfectly styled hair, designer clothes, and a smile that could charm anyone, he dated approximately 37 people in the past 2 years, never lasting more than 3 weeks with any of them. His philosophy was simple. Love was for suckers, dating was a game, and he was winning. His best friend Marcus had tried to warn him that his behavior would eventually catch up with him, but Damien just laughed it off while swiping right on another dating app. Then came the night of December 1st when everything changed. Damien had just broken up with his latest girlfriend via text message while she was literally buying him a Christmas present. It was possibly his coldest move yet, and the universe apparently decided enough was enough. That night, Damien was visited by a translucent figure in his apartment, a woman in Victorian-era clothing with an expression of profound disappointment. She introduced herself as the ghost of Christmas romance, guardian of love and holiday relationships. Damien Sterling, she intoned in a voice that echoed with supernatural authority. You have broken too many hearts, trampled too many feelings, and weaponized romance for your own ego. You must learn what it means to walk in another's shoes, or in this case, their entire body. Damien tried to laugh it off, assuming he was having a weird dream brought on by the expired sushi he'd eaten for dinner. Look, lady, I don't believe in ghosts, and I definitely don't believe in magical Christmas curses. Romance is just a social construct anyway. The ghost's eyes narrowed. Very well. Let me make this tangible for you. Effective immediately, every time you stand beneath mistletoe, you will swap bodies with the nearest single woman for exactly 24 hours. You will experience life from their perspective, feel what they feel, and perhaps learn something about empathy. The curse will only break when you perform a genuinely selfless act of romance for someone else, expecting nothing in return. Before Damien could respond, the ghost vanished in a swirl of rose petals and sparkles. Damien shook his head and went to bed, convinced it was all nonsense. The next morning, Damien's confidence lasted exactly until he walked into his office building. The company had decorated for Christmas, which meant mistletoe hung in doorways, above water coolers, and in basically every possible location. Damien walked under the first sprig of mistletoe near the entrance without thinking. Instantly, he felt a bizarre sensation like being turned inside out while simultaneously being squeezed through a tube. When the world stopped spinning, Damien looked down and screamed. He was in a completely different body. A woman's body, specifically that of Jennifer from accounting, who he dated for 2 weeks last month before ghosting her. Jennifer, now in Damien's body, looked equally horrified. They both started shouting at the same time, causing a scene in the office lobby that took 3 managers and HR to sort out. After a chaotic explanation that nobody believed, they both called in sick and went to Damien's apartment to figure out what was happening. This is your fault, Jennifer shouted in Damien's voice, which was incredibly weird to hear. You dated me, said I was special, then literally never responded to my messages again, and now I'm stuck in your body for 24 hours. Damien, struggling to walk in heels and deeply uncomfortable with his new center of gravity, tried to explain about the ghost of Christmas romance. Jennifer stared at him. So you got cursed for being a jerk, and now I'm collateral damage? That's so perfectly on brand for you. The 24 hours were educational in the worst way possible. Damien experienced firsthand the anxiety Jennifer felt about workplace dynamics, the discomfort of having male colleagues talk down to her, and the emotional whiplash of seeing his own face and remembering how much his ghosting had hurt. When they finally swapped back, Damien thought maybe he'd learned his lesson. He was wrong. The mistletoe was everywhere. Over the next week, Damien swapped bodies with 7 different women, each one someone he'd dated and discarded. There was Rachel, who he'd stood up on Christmas Eve last year. There was Amy, who he'd borrowed money from and never paid back. There was Sophie, who he dated simultaneously with two other people without telling any of them. Each swap lasted 24 hours, and each one was more mortifying than the last. The absolute worst part was Marcus. His best friend Marcus, who was also single, kept almost kissing him under mistletoe. The first time it happened, Damien was in the body of a woman named Claire. Marcus, who didn't know about the curse because it sounded too ridiculous to explain, had been flirting with Claire for months. They ended up at a Christmas party together, and Marcus went in for a kiss under the mistletoe. Damien, in Claire's body, panicked and dodged so hard he fell into a punch bowl. Marcus was confused and concerned. Damien had to pretend to be Claire having a panic attack while internally screaming because his best bro had almost kissed him. It happened again when Damien was in the body of Marcus's coworker Jessica, and then again with a barista named Emma that Marcus had been chatting up. Each time, Damien had to find increasingly creative ways to avoid the kiss without revealing the truth. The awkwardness was reaching critical levels. By December 20th, Damien had swapped bodies with 14 different women and had developed what could only be described as psychological damage from the experience. He'd learned more about makeup application, period cramps, workplace harassment, emotional labor, and the general experience of being dismissed or objectified than he ever wanted to know. He'd also gained a profound appreciation for how his actions had affected people and felt genuinely terrible about his past behavior. The problem was breaking the curse. The ghost had said he needed to perform a genuinely selfless act of romance for someone else, expecting nothing in return. But Damien had no idea what that meant. Did it mean setting up other people? Did it mean grand gestures? He was stuck, and Christmas was approaching fast. The breakthrough came when Damien, currently in the body of a woman named Vanessa, overheard Marcus talking to a friend at a coffee shop. Marcus was sadly explaining that he'd been trying to ask out Claire for months, but she kept avoiding him, and he was ready to give up. He thought he'd misread the signals and didn't want to be pushy. Damien's heart sank. Claire actually really liked Marcus. She told Damien that during their 24-hour swap, she was just shy and had anxiety about making the first move. Marcus giving up would mean two people who actually liked each other missing out on potential happiness, and it would be Damien's fault for all the mistletoe interference. That night, Damien waited until he swapped back to his own body, then immediately started planning. He couldn't use his own smooth-talking skills because that would be for his own benefit, trying to fix his own mistake. Instead, he spent an entire day setting up an elaborate scheme. He anonymously sent Marcus tickets to a Christmas concert that Claire had mentioned loving. He arranged for Claire to receive similar tickets with a note saying they were from a secret admirer who thought she deserved something nice. He set up the seats so Marcus and Claire would be next to each other. He even paid for their dinner reservations afterward. The entire thing cost him a fortune and a lot of effort, and he'd never be able to take credit for it or gain anything from it. It was purely to make two other people happy. On December 23rd, Marcus texted Damien excitedly about an amazing date he'd just had with Claire. They'd discovered they both had mystery tickets to the same concert, ended up sitting together, had an amazing time, and were now officially dating. Marcus was ecstatic. Damien felt genuinely happy for his friend. Even though part of him was sad, he couldn't tell Marcus the truth about the body-swapping chaos or take credit for the setup. That night, the ghost of Christmas romance appeared in Damien's apartment again. She was smiling this time. "Damien Sterling, you have learned your lesson. You performed a selfless act of romance, bringing together two people for their own happiness with no benefit to yourself. The curse is lifted." Damien felt a weight he didn't know he'd been carrying lift from his shoulders. "Thank you. And I'm sorry. I was a jerk. I hurt a lot of people because I was too focused on myself to think about anyone else as feelings. I get that now. The ghost nodded. Good. Now go forth and be better. And perhaps apologize to those 14 women whose bodies you borrowed. They deserve actual apologies. She vanished in another swirl of rose petals. Damien spent the next week reaching out to everyone he'd hurt, offering genuine apologies without expecting forgiveness. Some accepted, some didn't, and that was okay. He also started therapy because 2 weeks of body swapping had revealed he had issues to work through. On Christmas Day, Damien attended Marcus and Claire's first official Christmas party as a couple. There was mistletoe everywhere, but this time when Damien walked under it, nothing happened. He stayed solidly in his own body. Marcus came up and gave him a bro hug. Thanks for being supportive, man. Claire is amazing. I feel like the luckiest guy alive. Damien smiled genuinely. You are lucky. Hold on to that. He meant it. Being a playboy might have been fun, but being a decent human being felt surprisingly better. Though he was never, ever going near mistletoe again if he could help it. Some lessons were learned once and remembered forever.